Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today it's another steamy day here in Southwest Florida, and I'm pretty excited because I'm going to start showing some first and new blooms for you. So I've got just a few that I wanted to share with you today. I'm not going to show all of my blooms because I got a lot coming, but I want to highlight just a few. So I've got I think and intermingled in here, so I want to highlight these three plants right here, but I also want to bring in some others that are blooming just to share a little bit more about the background of these three right here. And within this group I've got a new bloom, a repeat bloomer, and I've got two first-time blooms, and I'm excited about all these. I'm looking around, and the orchids are just really doing well. They love this warmth and humidity, so they're really doing well. My seedlings, I just took a look. I look at my plants every day. I try to go through and look at all of them. They don't surprise me when I see blooms. I don't have enough plants, and I wanted to keep it this way, that I walk through the garden and go, oh, surprise bloom. I see them in sheath. I see all of my plants, and I prefer it that way so I can get to know them. And I know which ones are vigorous, and I like growing the vigorous ones, and I like using them in my breeding program. So I went around and looked at my seedlings, and some of my seedlings, oh my gosh, they are just really growing nicely. And when I don't know all of my seedlings from my crosses, because I have so many of them, but what I do is I go through and I see the ones that are really looking nice, and I rescue those from a 2-inch pot and put them into a 4-inch pot in a different medium. And so I'm getting to know some of those plants. Once they go up to the 4-inch pots, then they deserve some special attention. So I'm watching those. Anyway, let's get back to these orchids here. So the first one that I wanted to share with you, it's a really small flower, and this is a Guaracatonia Gretchen Garrick. And I'm pulling out the tag, and I have to write a new tag. The tag is broken in the pot, but I remember what the name of this plant is. This is a small plant, and I've got this maybe around a year and a half ago from RF Orchids. It has stayed small, but what has happened more recently is it's really put out a lot of new pseudobulbs. And so a lot of these are new. It's bloomed, I think, twice for me previously. It's a periodic bloomer, so it puts out a new large bloom spike, and then it blooms. I like this flower because it's a small flower on a small plant, which is not typical for what I like, but I really like the pattern of flaring in this flower. So it has the sepals are different colors from the petals. The petals have some flaring where it looks like there is some yellow in the middle. Ends up being some dark purple on the end of that flare, and then there is some purple on the outside of these are the petals, the flower petals. There's no fragrance that I've been able to get from this, but I like this because the flower is nice and because it's such a vigorous grower. Even though I've had this for a while, it's still happy in this small pot. This is the original pot that I purchased this in from RF Orchids. It's getting close to the edge of the pot, so I'll probably have to split it pretty soon, and there's a lot of new growth that's coming on from all sides, so it's kind of growing outwards, and it's growing nicely. I looked at the background and the history of this flower, and I was surprised. I look into the back, I look at the ancestry of these things, and I didn't know the parents, but I actually know the grandparent of this plant, and the grandparent of this is right here. So this is Jamaica Red, and as it turns out, this is, I mean, it's a pretty similar flower if you look at this Jamaica Red. So this plant, I've had this maybe for about a year. This plant, along with Gretchen Garrick, they put out the new pseudobulbs, and then it flowers. So this is kind of a periodic bloomer. As it puts out new spikes, as it puts out new pseudobulbs, it puts out new spikes, and those spike flowers. Sometimes this Jamaica Red, it doesn't have a whole lot of blooms on it right now, but it's got a lot of new growth, and I can see buried in the new growth, in the new pseudobulbs, I can see some flower spikes that are coming out. So this was a plant that was actually gifted to me by a neighbor, Tom. So Tom, if you're watching, there you go. It's right there. Again, I don't usually go after these because it's a small flower, but it is nice because it's a periodic bloomer, and it blooms almost all year. Now, you don't get the really surge of flowers that you do with some of the other ones that only bloom once a year or that have more timed blooms, but still it's nice to have this thing always blooming. So this is what you have with Jamaica Red, and this is what I'm starting to see with Gretchen Garrick. Now again, this is going to grow a lot more, and I'm excited to see what this does. I've collected Pollinia from Gretchen Garrick, but I haven't used it for anything yet. I may try it in some crosses. The plant now is big enough, so I may actually try to cross onto it, but you know, we'll see. Just a nice compact. This is the largest that the flower spike has ever been on this plant. This kind of surprised me. The previous spikes haven't been this long, so this is a 6-inch plant with an 8-inch flower on it, which is, I guess it's okay, but we'll see. I don't have a whole lot of experience with this plant. All right, let's move on a little bit, and I want to move on to this plant right here. So this is Hawaiian Leopard Ming, and this is the first bloom on this plant. This is this I got from Carmela Orchids. I looked, and it's a little over a year ago, and I looked in my order, and it said when I ordered this 2 years to bloom, and that was a year ago. So I like plants that are vigorous. This plant apparently likes it here, and so it bloomed, I think, a little bit early, but the plant is big. It's pretty vigorous. It does really well. It's at the top of my pergola, which is the premier space up at the top, where the sun is the brightest. There's still shade cloth up there, but it gets good bright light. And on the top means that it just only gets rainwater and irrigation water. There's no orchids above it that'll drain onto it. So it's in a good prime location. The thing is with this flower, I really do like the spotting on this. That's why I bought it. And I'm real happy with it. There's no fragrance that I can detect from this. But it seemed, and it's still a small plant, so it pretty much, when I bought it, it was a year ago, it was just a large, it's a clone. It is, because this is Hawaiian Leopard Ming, so Ming in single quotes, which means that this is a clone plant, so this is already an award winner. And so it seems to be a really nice, it's not a seedling, but it was probably deflasked fairly recently. Plant's doing well, nice and vigorous, put out a bloom spike really early, and I'm really happy with that. Looking at the ancestry of this plant, the parent of this plant I showed to you, I can't remember what it was, a week and a half ago, but the parent of this plant is right here. So this is Waianae Leopard Tsinghua, and this is a plant that again I shared with you, and I really like this. I like the spots on this, and Hawaiian Leopard inherited the spots from Hawaiian leopard. They share the leopard name. But the thing about this is about this plant. It's still beautifully fragrant. Now, some of the flowers on this are starting to fade. On my Hawaiian leopard, the flowers are starting to fade a little bit, so it's losing a little bit of the intense fragrance that it used to have. And maybe because the Hawaiian leopard only opened a few days ago, maybe I'll get some fragrance out of it. But you can see the similar type of flower shape. You can see the spotting, the leopard spotting that's in the name of both of these plants, and overall I'm pretty happy with this. Now, what I'm going to do, again, these plants all seem to be really vigorous, which means it's a good it may be a good parent for me to include in my breeding program. So anyway, first bloom on this plant from Hawaiian leopard, Ming. Okay, moving on to my last one of the day. This was a real surprise. It was a surprise for me, but it shouldn't have been. So this plant is STK Jewel. And this I bought at an orchid festival from Conjaran Greens. And this is these are Thai breeders and flaskers and growers, and I bought this bare rooted not quite a year ago, maybe around, I think, 8 months ago. So this thing, bare root, I put it in the pot, and then the roots went, the new roots grew out as the new pseudobulbs came out, and it just grabbed, it grew into this stuff, and it bloomed really quickly from a bare root. There were 2 flowers on this bloom spike, and one of them didn't make it, and so there's 1 flower left. But the flower that's left, because there's only 1 bloom on, it's a fairly large plant, but it doesn't have any roots on it, just the new roots that are growing out. But this single bloom is just incredible. So I talked to the people from Conjaran Greens at the show, just great people, and to get an idea of their philosophy on orchid breeding and orchid growing, and it was enlightening. It was really interesting for me to hear how they grow these. So what they do is they make these crosses, and I should mention that, so this is STK Jewel. STK, all capital letters, is actually the breeder in Thailand. I can't pronounce first name or last name, but there's a lot of hybrids from STK that are named STK that are all registered by the same breeder. So S is the first name and TK is the middle name, a couple letters in the middle name. So this breeder named, so all of these hybrids are named after himself or herself. Anyway, the approach on this is to make crosses, generate, flask the seed, grow out the plants, and get the earliest, most prolific, nicest flower. They do not release seedlings. I grow a lot of my seedlings. I share my seedlings with the local orchid community here and some of the other people in the state of Florida. But these guys don't do that. They grow out their seedlings, and then they pick a few from that cross that are spectacular, and then they clone it. So they have the facilities for flasking, they have the facilities and the expertise for cloning, so they clone the premier orchids from their crosses, and then they release those. And that's what this is. This doesn't have it's not an award winner, doesn't have a cultivar associated with it, but they really do a good job about picking these certain seedlings and growing them out and picking the best ones and then cloning those. So this is just an awesome flower. If you take a look at the flower, there's incredible and very unusual flaring in the petals where it's kind of mottled. So they're purple, but it's dark purple on the outside, some white that comes into the inside. The sepals are a different color from the petals. The lip is dark purple with some yellow inside. The other thing that I really like about this flower is, even though it only opened a few days ago, it is fragrant already. So I'm really happy to have that. The flower's not huge, but it's not small. But the thing is, this is my first bloom on this plant. So I think that over time, as I get more growth out of this plant, I think the flowers might get just a little bigger. They're not going to get huge, but they might get a little bit bigger. All right, so this is, again, this is STK Jewel. Now on this plant, I should say that the parents, that I have a relative of one of the parents on this plant. So it's interesting, you know, the parent of this plant is right here. The grandfather of this plant is right here, and I don't have a parent or grandparent, but I think I have maybe what is a cousin or an uncle of this plant I have growing in my collection. And I think its name is Mari's Glory is what I have, and that's another plant that I got, that I had a first bloom short time ago, and it has some flaring and some real nice colors associated with it. So it's interesting in the orchid community. There's a lot of plants that people like using in the breeding program, and so I don't have that many orchids in my collection, but I have some of the relatives of the few plants that I shared with you today. All right, so that's all I have for today. I hope I can feel it. This is Florida, so I can feel it. There's rain right there. I can feel it starting to sprinkle just a little bit. So time to finish up. I hope you enjoyed my video today. If you did and you want to keep on seeing them, it would help me out if you could click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. All right, again, I hope you enjoyed my video, and happy propagating.